Some spy for money, others for political gain or to further their own agenda. One thing is for sure, without spies, the political landscape of the world in the 21st century would look a whole lot different than it does today. Number 5. In 1987, Jonathan Pollard became the only American to be charged under the Espionage Act for selling secrets to a U.S. ally. Born in Galveston, Texas, to a strongly religious Jewish family, Pollard was very proud of his identity, something that was instilled in him by his parents. Growing up, Pollard felt that he had an obligation to Israel and had to always act in its best interest. This obligation would last well into his adulthood and see him handed down a life sentence. Pollard also loved telling stories, telling college friends that his father was a CIA agent and had worked under numerous top-secret missions. He also claimed to be a dual national of both the United States and Israel, and even claimed he was a colonel in the Israel Defense Force. Of course, none of these were true and would come back to haunt him later on. After completing a degree in political science at Stanford University, Pollard set his sights extremely high and tried to get a job with the CIA. He was rejected due to his penchant for telling stories, lying about Israeli officers, and his previous heavy drug use. Undeterred, Pollard eventually secured a job at the Navy Field Operational Intelligence Office in 1979. After working his way through the ranks and gaining their trust, he was assigned to the U.S. Navy's Anti-Terrorist Alert Center in 1987. It's important to note that the CIA did not pass their report on to the NFOIO. Not long after he was promoted to the Alert Center, Pollard began telling secrets to an Israeli Air Force commander. This relationship came about when Pollard met the man, and he was unable to leave behind his obligation to Israel. Pollard told the guy that he worked with the US Navy and that although the two were allies, the US was withholding very important information from Israel. The Air Force commander approached the situation with caution. However, after just a few days, it became very apparent that Pollard was a real spy and not part of a sting operation. In exchange for passing over intelligence secrets, Pollard was given $10,000 in cash, a diamond, and sapphire rings, as well as a monthly wage of about $2,500. The NFOIO became suspicious of Pollard after he was seen leaving work with a large briefcase stuffed with papers and files. The Navy put him under surveillance, and on November 21, 1985, he was arrested outside of the Israeli embassy in Washington. Pollard knew that the game was up and admitted to everything. He also admitted to stealing files about China and passing them on to his wife, who used them for her own gains. After his crimes, he was given a life sentence, becoming the only American to ever be charged for selling secrets to an ally. In November of 2015, Pollard was paroled after serving 30 years in prison. He would spend another 5 years under strict parole terms before being granted Israeli citizenship and subsequently moved there in December of 2020. Number 4. In the midst of World War II, ex-British soldier Eddie Chapman found himself in a strange position. Chapman was arrested in 1939 for burglarizing a nightclub in Jersey and was sent to prison. However, by his release in October of 1941, Jersey and the rest of the Channel Islands had fallen under the occupation of the Germans. Angered at being imprisoned by the British Crown, Chapman offered himself up to the German Secret Service. He pleaded his case to the German higher-ups and said that he hated Britain just as much as they did, and wanted nothing more than to see its downfall. After extensive training, Chapman was parachuted into Cambridge in order to report back as much information as possible, as well as destroy an aviation factory. Only Chapman had other ideas. Instead of blending into British life once more and finding out as much as he could, he turned himself over to the British Secret Service known as MI5. He told MI5 agents everything, including details about his training. MI5 were hesitant at first to work with Chapman, given his criminal background, but eventually they were won over with one agent saying, quote, "In our opinion, Chapman should be used to the fullest extent. He genuinely means to work for the British against the Germans. By his courage and resourcefulness, he's ideally fitted to be an agent." Eddie Chapman was welcomed into MI5 as a double agent and became known as Agent Zigzag. He would become an integral part of the British Secret Service as a double agent. All Chapman had to do now was fake an attack on the factory before his mission was complete, and he was able to return to Germany. Thanks to the help of MI5 agents, Chapman and the team created a fake explosion at the aviation factory, which produced airplanes and other items for the RAF. His German superiors were delighted at his progress and welcomed him with open arms back into Germany, awarding him with the Iron Cross for his work. It wasn't until the war had ended that the Germans discovered that Chapman had been a double agent all along and had double-crossed them. Chapman published 3 books about his time as a spy before passing away in 1997 at the age of 83. Number 3. It wouldn't be right to make a video about famous spies without mentioning Marahari, a key figurehead when talking about espionage in the 20th century. Marahari was born in the Netherlands in 1876 and saw tragedy early in her life. After her mother passed away, she was separated from her siblings and sent to live elsewhere in the Netherlands. From the age of 18, Mara realized that she could use her good looks and femininity to get whatever she wanted, and this is a surefire way of being able to provide for herself. Just before her 19th birthday, Mara married Rudolf MacLeod, a Dutch military captain. Their marriage was rocky at best, and after 9 years, the couple called it quits. Now divorced, Mara was free to do as she pleased and followed her heart and became a dancer, performing in saloons and pubs across France and Europe. She wowed people with her natural beauty and mesmerizing performances, and soon men were falling at her feet. As the years passed and younger women came onto the scene, Mara found that she was becoming less desirable. Instead, she seduced government and military men, with them offering her cash and gifts for her companionship. In return, Mara overheard a lot of information that she perhaps shouldn't have, and made very useful contacts with the armed forces. In 1916, desperate for money, Mara reluctantly agreed to become a spy for Georges Ledoux of the French army. Ledoux had approached Mara because of her many connections to the military and government men across Europe and realized that she would be a very useful tool. The powers became muddied for Mara when she was outed as a German spy by a fellow German citizen. Mara claimed that she'd been feeding him small bits of information to gain his trust, in the hopes that he would feed information back to her. However, this backfired and she was arrested for espionage in 1917. Rumors of Mara being a German double agent only intensified when she admitted that a German diplomat had paid her $20,000 to feed them information whenever she was in France. Despite her protest, Marahari was found guilty of espionage after French authorities believed that she'd been a German double agent all along. Number 2. Aldrich Ames, the son of a CIA analyst, was thrust into the spotlight in 1994 when he was arrested by the FBI on charges of espionage. Growing up, Ames was surrounded by the achievements and hard work of his father and wanted nothing more than to follow in his footsteps. However, after years of being within the CIA, Ames changed sides and began spying for the Soviets. Ames's CIA career started off strong in 1962 when he was accepted as a trainee. He'd studied at the University of Chicago beforehand and was given the opportunity to attend George Washington University in 1967 to further his career. During his time as a CIA officer, Ames had taken a strong interest in Russian intelligence and threw himself into learning the language. For this, Ames was sent to Turkey, where he was tasked with recruiting Russian intelligence officers to become double agents and provide them with intelligence and secrets straight from the Soviet Union. By 1985, Ames switched sides and decided to become a spy for the KGB, the Soviet Union's security service. In exchange for $50,000, Ames provided the names of 2 KGB agents working with the FBI. He was also later gifted $2 million by the KGB as a wedding present, the most amount of money an American has ever received from the Soviets. In an exclusive interview with the New York Times, Ames provided the all-important answers to why he switched sides. He said, quote, "I knew some Soviets in New York who were very interesting. The chief representative in New York and I had lunch together every couple of weeks for about 3 years, and he didn't directly teach me a lot, but indirectly, I learned an awful lot in terms of what the Soviets were all about." When asked about his motivations, he said, quote, "Money. Money was the motivation. These other ideas and reasons were only enablers, if you will. I mean, plenty of people need money. A number of people throughout the agency's history have stolen money from the agency, and they've done terrible things for money. Very few have sold secrets to the KGB, and I think one of those reasons is because many of them would have found there were a lot of barriers in the way. For me, by 1985, some of those barriers weren't there anymore. I don't believe it was affecting the security of this country or the safety of its people. I didn't give that stuff to the Soviets because I thought espionage is a dirty game. During his time as a double agent for the Soviet Union, Ames named every single spy that was posted in the Soviet Union and led to the unfortunate demise of many. In 1993, the FBI opened an investigation into Aldrich after they discovered that many of the spies, both in the US and the Soviet Union, were being targeted. After months of surveillance and evidence gathering, Aldrich Ames and his wife Maria were both arrested. Maria was found guilty of tax evasion and conspiracy to commit espionage, while Aldrich was found guilty of committing espionage and sentenced to life in prison. He's currently housed at the Medium Security Federal Correctional Institute in Indiana. Number 1. Born in 1911 in Germany, Klaus Fritz started out life as a physicist but soon became involved in selling British and American secrets to the Soviet Union. In 1930, he joined the German Communist Party while at a university studying physics and mathematics. With the rise of the Nazi Party, he was forced to flee to the safety of Germany, where he completed his doctorate and was recruited by the University of Birmingham to work on the atomic bomb. The British government took note of his work and contribution to the war effort and gave him full British citizenship in 1942. Fritz hadn't left the communist leanings behind, and after realizing what a pivotal role he was playing in World War II, he became a spy for the Soviets. By 1943, Fritz had been transferred to the United States to work on their atomic bomb projects after the British government had nothing but good things to say about his intelligence and work ethic. Fritz was given a high position within the project and subsequently learned everything he and the Soviets needed to know about the atomic bomb, including the design. Equipped with contacts, Fritz began slowly but surely funneling information about the designs to the Soviets, saving them a year's worth of work. It wasn't until after the war that Fritz's deception was found out. His espionage was only found out due to British and American forces breaking Soviet codes, which revealed reports of Fritz's meetings and communications. Fritz was convicted under the Official Secrets Act and sentenced to 14 years in prison. Following his release, he returned to his native country of Germany. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But I've been Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.